time when Vera used to meet him off the ship, and they would walk home together, she chatting about what she had been up to in his absence, he telling her about his latest trip, the characters he'd met, and the goods he'd managed to shift. He had admitted that he wasn't sure how long he would last in this job. He wasn't really cut out to be a salesman, didn't have the necessary gift of the gab, wasn't that comfortable in social situations, unlike, say, Felix, who positively radiated self-confidence. That was true of Runki, too. He sometimes sailed on the Sud, his cases crammed full of headgear from Luton. How Eyvindur envied Runki his nerve. He was always self-assured, even cocky, never had any trouble getting people's attention. He was a born salesman. It was all about confidence. While Eyvindur was getting his tongue in a twist over the Dutch dinner service, all over town people were donning Runki's new hats in the smug belief that they had got themselves a bargain. Too impatient to wait for the weather to let up, Eyvindur grabbed his kisses again, ducked his head and ran across the square into the wind and rain, that cold, late summer rain that hung like a low canopy over the town. He and Vera lived in the West End, in a small flat that belonged to his father's brother. Rents were astronomical these days, with all the people flooding in from the countryside to the towns, especially Reykjavík, lured by the prospect of working for the army, for hard cash and a better life. His uncle, who owned several properties in town, was raking in the profits, though he charged Eyvindur a fair rent. Even so, Eyvindur found it steep enough, and kept having to ask for more time when his self-confidence was at its lowest ebb and he failed to bring home enough in commission. The flat was on the ground floor of a 3-story concrete building. He unlocked the front door, then the door to the flat, before hastily retrieving his cases from the step outside and carrying them in. As he did so, he called out to his girlfriend, who he assumed was waiting for him inside. "Vera! Vera, darling!" There was no answer. He closed the door, switched on the light, and took a moment to catch his breath. He needn't have bothered to hurry over the last stretch. Vera wasn't home. She must have gone out, which meant he would have to wait a little longer before he could beg her forgiveness for his crass accusations. He'd been rehearsing what he was going to say, would have to say, if he was going to make things right again. His outer clothes were sopping wet, so he took off his hat and laid his overcoat across a chair in the living room, then hung his jacket in the wardrobe by the door. Opening one of the cases, he took out a pound of genuine coffee that he had managed to get hold of in the West Fjords, hoping to give Vera a nice surprise. He was just about to go into the kitchen when he paused. Something wasn't right. Turning back, Eyvindur opened the wardrobe again. His jacket was hanging there, along with a second, longer jacket of his, and another coat. It was what was missing that brought him up short. Vera's clothes had gone. The shoes she kept in the bottom weren't there, nor were her 2 coats. He stood for a moment, staring blankly into the cupboard, then walked into the bedroom. There was another, larger wardrobe there, with drawers for socks and underwear and a rail for dresses and shirts. Eyvindur opened it and pulled out the drawers, to be confronted by the astonishing fact that all Vera's clothes had disappeared. His own things were still in their usual place, but there wasn't a single feminine garment left. He couldn't believe his eyes. In a daze he went over to Vera's dressing table and opened the drawers and compartments. It was the same story. Had she left him? Moved out? He sank down on the bed, his thoughts miles away, recalling what Runki had said about Vera, when Runki thought he couldn't hear. The day he caught the boat to the West Fjords, they had bumped into each other at Hot and Cold, a restaurant popular with soldiers. Runki had been there with a friend, shoveling down fish and chips, and as soon as he thought Eyvindur was safely out of earshot, he had dropped that remark about Vera. An absurd lie. He should have gone back and rammed the words down the bastard's throat. The lie that had made Vera so angry, so hurt, when he was stupid enough to fling it in her face.